You are always performing. Right now, as you listen to these words, part of your mind is already crafting how you might share this insight, how you might present yourself as someone who engages with deep ideas. Even in this moment of apparent privacy, you are not alone. You are accompanied by the invisible audience that never leaves your side, the phantom spectators for whom you constantly curate your existence. Welcome to what Byung-Chul Han calls the society of permanent self-image, where every moment of your life has become a potential performance, every experience a possible post, every thought filtered through the question, how will this look to others? You carry a black mirror in your pocket, your smartphone, and it has transformed you into both the star and the audience of an endless reality show where the cameras never stop rolling. But unlike the dystopian visions of surveillance states, watching you from the outside, this totalitarianism is worse. You have become your own big brother, voluntarily documenting, editing, and broadcasting your life for an audience that may not even be paying attention. Han understood that this isn't just about social media. It's about a fundamental transformation of human consciousness. We have internalized the logic of the camera, the mindset of the performer, the anxiety of the eternally observed. You don't just use social platforms. You have become a social platform, constantly generating content from the raw material of your existence. Think about the last time you experienced something beautiful, a sunset, a meaningful conversation, a moment of joy. How quickly did your mind turn to capturing and sharing it? How much of the experience was actually lived versus performed? We've trained ourselves to split our consciousness. Part of us experiences life, while another part simultaneously documents it for an audience that exists more in our imagination than in reality. This permanent performance has created what Han calls the burnout society, not just from overwork, but from the exhaustion of constantly managing your self-image. You wake up already performing, curating your morning routine for Instagram. You eat meals that photograph well rather than nourish you. You attend events not for the experience, but for the evidence that you were there. You've become the CEO of a brand called you, and the pressure to maintain consistent messaging is crushing your soul. The black mirror reflects not just your image, but your deepest insecurities amplified and projected back at you. Every post becomes a referendum on your worth. Every like or absence of likes becomes feedback on your existence. You've externalized your self-esteem to algorithms designed to keep you addicted to validation, trapped in cycles of posting and checking, performing, and anxiously awaiting reviews of your performance. Han reveals the cruel irony. In seeking to connect with others through constant self-presentation, we've become more isolated than ever. The person you present online isn't really you. It's a carefully edited version, optimized for engagement. And the responses you receive aren't really to you, but to this performed version. You're connecting with ghosts, having relationships with projections, loving and being loved by fictions. Consider how this affects your relationship with your own experiences. You no longer simply live moments. You immediately convert them into content. Your vacation becomes a series of posts documenting how well you vacation. Your relationship becomes evidence that you are lovable. Your achievements become proof of your success. Life itself has become material for your personal brand rather than something to be lived for its own sake. The society of permanent self-image has created a new form of alienation. Marx wrote about workers being alienated from the products of their labor. Now we're alienated from the products of our living, every experience immediately transformed into content for consumption by others. You've become both the factory worker and the product being manufactured, producing yourself as a commodity in the attention economy. This commodification of the self extends beyond social media into every aspect of existence. Your dating profile, reduces you to a series of curated images and witty phrases. Your LinkedIn profile transforms your work history into personal branding. Your entire identity becomes a product to be marketed, optimized, and sold to an audience of potential consumers, whether they're employers, lovers, or simply followers. Han warns that this constant self-presentation is destroying our capacity for authentic self-knowledge. When you're always performing, you lose touch with who you are when no one is watching. When every thought is potentially shareable, you stop having private thoughts. When every emotion might become content, you stop feeling freely. The Black Mirror has colonized your inner life, turning your consciousness into a 24/7 production studio. The psychological toll is evident everywhere. Young people report unprecedented levels of anxiety, depression, and self-harm. But these aren't just individual problems. They're the inevitable result of a society that has turned existence itself into a performance to be rated by strangers. When your worth depends on metrics generated by algorithms designed to maximize engagement rather than human flourishing, mental health becomes impossible. Even your attempts to be authentic become performances of authenticity. You post about your struggles to show you're real. You share your failures to demonstrate your vulnerability. You document your self-care to prove you're taking care of yourself. Authenticity itself has become a brand strategy. Another way to manage your image rather than escape the tyranny of image management. The Black Mirror Society has also transformed how we understand success and failure. Achievement isn't enough. It must be documented and acknowledged by your network. Love isn't enough. It must be displayed and validated through comments and likes. Happiness isn't enough. It must be performed and proven through carefully curated glimpses into your perfect life. Han suggests that this permanent performance is making us stupid in a fundamental way. Real intelligence requires privacy, reflection, the ability to think without an audience. But when every thought is potentially public, when every insight might become a tweet, we lose the mental space necessary for deep contemplation. We become content creators rather than thinkers, performers rather than philosophers. The most insidious aspect of the Black Mirror Society is that it makes resistance nearly impossible. How do you rebel against a system you're voluntarily participating in? How do you reject the performance when not performing feels like invisibility, irrelevance, non-existence? The platforms have made opting out feel like opting out of life itself. Yet Han points toward a path of resistance through what he calls idleness, the radical act of existing without producing content from that existence. This isn't laziness, but a form of rebellion against the demands of constant performance. It's the recovery of private experience, unshared moments, thoughts that exist only for yourself. The Black Mirror will continue reflecting our performed selves back at us, amplifying our anxieties and feeding our need for validation. But we can choose in small moments to look away, to live experiences without documenting them, to have thoughts without sharing them, to exist without performing our existence. In a society of permanent self-image, perhaps the most radical act is to occasionally turn off the cameras, both external and internal, and remember what it feels like to simply be human without an audience. The Black Mirror has shown us who we've become. Performers trapped in our own reality show, addicted to validation, alienated from authentic experience. The question is whether we have the courage to look away long enough to remember who we were before we became our own surveillance state.